Thank you very much. And let me just say that I am very frustrated by talk about Russia. And I spent my entire life trying to defeat the Soviet Union. And I was very pleased to be part of the Reagan administration that helped accomplish that goal of bringing down a regime that wanted to impose an atheist dictatorship throughout the world in order to promote their ideology. And Russians expected to be treated as friends, the Russian people, after the fall of communism. And what has risen instead is a hostility that is just so overwhelming that it is damaging, not only has been damaging Russia and their ability to establish themselves in a new world role, because it is, after all, a major power in the world. And they have interest, no matter if they're not communist at all, they are a major power with interest, just as we are. But the double standard that we have been judging Russia, and even as present in the hearing today, is just overwhelming. We sit here and say, oh, well, Russia wants to keep Assad in power. How horrible that is, because Assad is a dictatorship. As if Saudi Arabia isn't a dictatorship and wouldn't murder millions of people or thousands of people to stay in power. What about other Gulf states run by kingdoms who would murder their people in great number? They're no different than Assad. In fact, they might be better than Assad because some of them are religiously motivated to the point that it's sort of like communism was a religious conviction. Well, their form of Islam sometimes puts them at odds with Sunnis or Shiites killing each other. The double standard that we have been judging Russia with and basing our policy on that double standard has caused us great harm. Great harm. Putin 5 years ago tried to work out a compromise with us, and we turned him down that would have created at least some sort of semblance of stability in Syria. And now it has totally gone to hell, and we still can't get ourselves to try to look at Putin as a possible partner in cooperation to make things better. I believe it is our hostility towards Russia that has prevented us from creating a policy that will create a more stable Middle East. And Gaddafi, look, we made an agreement with him that we were about Gaddafi. And what did we do? We broke that agreement, and has that resulted, in order to have the alternative, the non-Gaddafi, non-Islamic alternative into power, did that make it any better there? No. Libya today, half of Libya is controlled by people who want to murder us because they're radical Muslims. Had we been working with the Russians all along in good faith, I believe this situation in the Middle East would have been totally different and better, more stable. And let me just note that I can remember the charges, the monstrous charges against us in Iraq. How horrible it was. Our troops were murdering people by the thousands. Most of those reports were false, were wrong. They were lies by people who wanted to achieve a political end by claiming that we were massacring people intentionally in Iraq. Well, I don't know. Is it possible that some of these reports that we're getting, yeah, Assad is a murderous dictator, but some of the magnitude of his oppression and his murder of his own people might be exaggerated to achieve certain political ends? I would think so. And I've got a little time to answer. Let me give you a question so you can please feel free to disagree with everything that I say. I believe it, and I know you have your beliefs too, and they're honest disagreements. But let me just ask then about if indeed Assad is removed, and we get this third alternative, why won't it be just the same as happened with Gaddafi, where the radical Islamicists who hate us now see a weaker adversary, and it will come in and replace whatever that regime is very quickly with a regime that will control all of Syria, and they will be radicals that will be our worst nightmare? Why wouldn't that happen in Syria the way it happened in Libya?
I need to say something, Mr. Rohrabacher.
Please feel free to retort.
With respect, I can't let it go by the comparison of Bashar al-Assad with our Gulf allies. These countries are not in our image, but there is no way that they oppress their citizens or kill their citizens to the extent that Bashar al-Assad is. But let me.
You're saying they wouldn't do that? They would not engage in military use of the military to suppress their people if their guest workers decided to rise up?
Yes, I'm saying that, Mr. Rohrabacher.
They wouldn't?
I know it's a Saudi Arabia is a country I know well, and they would not do that. That's not how it works there. But let me try and answer your question about Syria. There's broad consensus in the international community that the institutions in Syria would remain intact. The intelligence, the military, the police, the civil service, the ministerial structures like health structures, and that the goal is to remove Bashar al-Assad and his closest advisors and have this political process that would lead to a new government. So it is not to destroy the institutional structure. In Libya, I would argue there weren't any institutions.
Okay.
It's a very
You've outlined it well. You've outlined it well. Why is it why do we have to go in and make that decision in Syria? Why is it for the United States to step in to this far-off land rather than going to perfect? There's lots of places we could go and perfect. Why is it for us to have to go in and do that when we know that you've got these radical Islamists who are just waiting on the sideline for some type of instability that they could take advantage of?
Because our national security is at stake in the region, and the security of our allies like Israel and the GCC countries and Lebanon and Jordan Turkey is ultimately affected by what happens in Syria.
That's right, and our policies are making the instability worse, and in fact we're dealing with Putin instead of trying to demonize him. Perhaps we could have had more stability there, and our friends would be actually better off than the current policy of whatever we do, don't work with Russia and get rid of Assad. Putin's also helping us, by the way, with General Sisi, who we only give just a lip service to try to help the man who's a pivotal role in stability in the Middle East.
We need to go to Grace Ming of New York. Time's expired.